If someone tells you that they have post-traumatic stress disorder and that this was caused by their husband or this was caused by their wife, and that in fact precisely the topic on which their eyewitness testimony is completely unreliable, inadmissible in a court of law, is this trauma that's the source of their complex PTSD, how then do we cope with what they're telling us?
Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel actress Charisma Carpenter claimed Joss Whedon's behavior on the set of those series triggered a chronic physical condition from which I still suffer. Fellow Buffy actress Michelle Trachtenberg wrote a post that said, in part, "I am brave enough now as a 35-year-old woman to repost this." Trachtenberg later edited the post by adding, "The last comment I will make on this was, there was a rule saying he's not allowed in a room alone with Michelle again."
I think we're all suitably cynical when one person accuses another of being insane. I think we all know what to do. I think we all know how to skeptically weigh in the balance the claim of a divorced, angry woman that her ex-husband is insane, or vice versa, boyfriends, girlfriends, gay couples, doesn't matter. When people are angry at one another, when they feel betrayed, when they want revenge, one of the first insults, one of the most common insults is to say, this person is crazy, that person is insane. And I think we all know how to regard those claims with skepticism. We have to cross-examine our own friends and coworkers. This isn't just something to do with celebrities and social media. It's something that comes up in daily life. But how do we cope when somebody describes themselves as insane? If someone tells you that they have post-traumatic stress disorder and that this was caused by their husband or this was caused by their wife, and that in fact precisely the topic on which their eyewitness testimony is completely unreliable, inadmissible in a court of law, is this trauma that's the source of their complex PTSD, how then do we cope with what they're telling us? Right? If you take a moment to look up what the symptoms are for PTSD, definitionally, if PTSD is a real thing, and if someone really has PTSD, then we can't trust what they're telling us about the source or cause of the PTSD and the extent to which they may be an unreliable witness on any topic whatsoever really deserves to be asked. Insanity is serious. It has become trivialized in popular culture in the 21st century because there are so many false and shallow and insincere claims of insanity. And I'm not talking about one person accusing the other. I'm talking about people accusing or recusing themselves as insane. I had a friend who was married to a completely normal, rational, able-bodied woman. They ran a small business together. They lived in several different cities around the world together. I never met her, but I saw photographs of them together. Like, they came up when this guy was showing me photos of his life. I think they were together for 10 years, say. I forget how many years. It was a long marriage. She went insane. She was given the same legal status as someone who was catatonic. It's not a mental disability. We're not talking about retardation here. We're not talking about a learning disability. This was someone who completed her high school and college education, had a job, led an active life, right? And she descended into insanity to a point where she couldn't brush her own teeth, she couldn't cook her own meals, she couldn't answer a question, she couldn't read and sign a legal document, she could not be responsible for anything in her own life. She lived in a care home with helpers who helped her feed herself, clothe herself, etc., okay? This is insanity we're talking about. This is the type of person who in a court of law would not be found to be responsible for their actions. Right? And a whole series of experts had to come into court and testify, yes, this woman is so genuinely insane that she has the same status as someone who is catatonic. We can't even present her with a legal document and talk to her and get her to accept a lawyer to represent her. Nothing is possible. This woman cannot speak on her own behalf. That's how insane she is. Do you know why she went insane? Jealousy. She was infertile, formally diagnosed as such, didn't just have difficulty. She went and had all the tests done, and the doctor said, nope, you are 100% incapable of conceiving and having a child. And her identical twin sister was fertile, got pregnant, and had a healthy baby. She was insanely jealous of her own twin sister. And she descended to that point where she couldn't do her own laundry, brush her own teeth. Insanity is real. Okay? People being incapable of testifying in court, or their testimony being discarded, or people getting away with murder because they're this insane. If this woman is in this totally disassociated state and grabs a knife and stabs someone, right, she will not be responsible for murder. This is real insanity. The problem is today, people try again and again and again to get away with murder, or to at least get their sentence reduced through insincere claims of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. This is a lawyer. I did quite a bit of research on him for a chapter of my forthcoming book, No More Manifestos. Very interesting case. He brushed his teeth this morning, right? He did his hair. He was claiming that he had PTSD and that he should not be punished. No, not for murder, not anything like that. Murder just transpires in a few moments on one particular day most of the time. No, nothing like that. He was trying to get away with making a series of mean comments anonymously on the internet over several months, and as it happens, those anonymous comments had a disastrous effect on an ongoing court case. PTSD. The allegations currently circling around Joss Whedon began with a statement from his ex-wife. His ex-wife doesn't just claim to be suffering from complex PTSD. She claims that the cause of her PTSD is her husband's infidelity. The cause, according to her, is that he lied to her over many years about many love affairs with many women, some of whom may or may not have been actresses on the TV shows and movies he directed. It gets real vague at that point. If this diagnosis of complex PTSD is valid, if it's real, inasmuch as PTSD is a real condition with the list of symptoms that's agreed upon, that would mean, by definition, her testimony about what her husband did and did not do is not admissible in a court of law. Charisma Carpenter also has claimed vaguely, painfully vaguely, to have some kind of ongoing, physically real, painful condition as a result of the psychological damage done to her by Joss Whedon's bad behavior on set. I think quite intentionally, we in the audience are being led to imagine that it is something like PTSD that still haunts her. We're living through a very dangerous period of time where people are accusing themselves of being crazy. People are boasting of being debilitated with this really serious disorder, PTSD, a disorder that you can use in court to get away with murder. They're boasting of it to make themselves seem like victims on the internet and basically to get the audience to credulously, uncritically accept whatever allegations or complaints they present. Well, at the same time, we in the audience don't know how to respond with skepticism. Not when the accusation is of one person against another claiming that they're insane, but instead when it's someone claiming to be insane themselves in order to destroy and discredit another person who is named in a cause and effect manner as the reason for their own present and ongoing insanity. I do not sympathize with Joss Whedon. I utterly despise Joss Whedon. What I'm concerned about is the future of the concept of PTSD. I'm concerned about the future of the concept of legal responsibility. And in a sense, I'm concerned about the future of sanity. As ridiculous as the claims of insanity presented by lawyer Sal Perricone may be, let's just consider that he was able to list off dozens and dozens of incredibly violent and traumatizing events in his life. He was able to list off events involving guns and knives and law enforcement. He was able to basically point to a personal history littered with events, any one of which could be sufficient to cause lifelong complex PTSD. The problem is we never can, in this way, have an objective domino-like cause and effect between an objective experience and someone's subjective breakdown. I do not think that Joss Whedon's ex-wife is the only woman in Hollywood to marry a multi-millionaire and later discover that he had been sleeping with other women. I just don't think it's all that uncommon an experience. I'm not saying it's good, I'm not justifying it, but isn't it a remarkable thing for one person to claim that they went insane, that they lost their minds, that they now have complex PTSD, and it's your fault. It's your fault because you had a love affair with someone else. How many women are there who are identical twins who couldn't have a baby and their twin did have a baby and they just cope? They just get over it. Or maybe they're even happy for their twin and they participate in raising their kid. They can be a good aunt even though they can't be a good mother. Maybe it's the most wonderful thing in their lives. They think, hey, I couldn't get pregnant. You could. I'm so happy for you. Let's all have a better life together. There is no way you can blame that other person as the cause for that effect. The way we have to measure sanity and insanity, the way we have to measure a claim that somebody's husband cheating on them caused them PTSD, right, is going to have to be through objectively real, verifiable criteria. Ultimately, I don't believe that Sal Perricone is insane because I've read the mean comments he made on the internet. Just the level of cognitive function he would have needed to have to be reading these articles and following the court case and making the mean comments. I don't believe it because I can see he managed to put that suit and tie on this morning, that he's really got his whole life together. There's just no evidence here whereby I could say that his claims of having PTSD are real, even though he's able to point to numerous trauma in his life that could have, for someone else, resulted in debilitating lifelong insanity. How can it be that social media has become a competition to see who can be morally superior to whom, in which the ultimate weapon, in which the nuclear option is for people to declare themselves the victim suffering from PTSD? And why? Because it's your fault. Maybe we can practice